Good evening, friends. This is Rahul Magan here as a Group Chief Executive Officer, Treasury Consulting, and also a venture capitalist. Now, standing today on 8th October 2019, practically 4 a.m. in the morning, I just returned from airport actually. At practically 4 a.m. in the morning, we are going to be shooting a pretty important video about a topic which is getting pretty hot nowadays, and that is known as SupTech. SupTech stands for Supervisory Technology. Now, this is a little long video, so I would like to I need to give you a complete background. Now, unfortunately, what is happening that nowadays the tech word is being used very often, not seldom, very often. Like, we need to remember that WeWork is considered as a tech company. Although we very well understand the business model of the WeWork is nowhere closer to a tech company. Now, there are humongous amount of startups who are coming into the public domain and they claim themselves as our technological companies. I really have a substantial doubt that how they can act as a technological company. But anyways, that's not our problem. Now, supervisory technology is actually a part and parcel of the fintech. Now, fintech stands for financial technologies. Now, fintech stands for that. Basically, you have the financial markets at one place, and you have the consumer on the another side. Now you wanted to have a technology so that you can link the financial market with the consumer. There are many intelligent people in India and some outside India who tend to believe that fintech is all about the, I would say the machine learning, the artificial intelligence, the IoT, Internet of Things, the cryptocurrency, the Bitcoin, and so on and so forth. But that is 110% wrong. Fintech is a pretty big thing actually, and fintech is something like a foreign exchange. Now, I spent almost 12 years in foreign exchange, still I am learning. There are a lot of derivative instruments that are coming every day and still we are learning. So fintech is pretty big. Now, what happens that in fintech, there are two things in fintech. Now, one thing in fintech is the functional piece, and another piece in fintech is the technological piece. Now, let me give you an example. I do have an Apple iPhone with me. I do not want it to demean any company. My intent is not to demean any company, but I was using Samsung earlier. A lot of people know me personally, they can acknowledge that I was using Samsung earlier. 2 years before I shifted to Apple, though I was using Apple iPad, I'm using Apple iPad for the last 7 years. When I shifted to Apple, somebody told me that now you're shifting to Apple, you will never come back on Samsung. He was right. I will never come back to Samsung because the quality of the Samsung phone and the Apple phone is just like the difference between Singapore and Malaysia. While Singapore is a business pro-government, Malaysia you all know. Now, very important thing which we need to understand is that the beauty of the iPhone is that the functional piece is linked with the technology in a pretty nicer way. And the credit has to go to Steve Jobs. And most importantly, like recently iPhone 11 stated that it holds the world's best camera. As far as the articles are concerned, I do not know till what extent the articles are right. But if somebody is giving this in public domain, it means that it holds substantiation. Now, similarly, in case of fintech, there are two pieces. One is the functional piece and one is the technological piece. There are many fintech courses which are live worldwide, like university. There are multiple universities in US. In fact, Harvard, if I know, they are offering the fintech course. But exactly happen in these courses, they will make you as a computer geek. Your financials, your functional pieces is missing, is completely missing. Now, let me give you an example. You do not know how the non-deliverable forward work. You do not know how the non-deliverable market work. You do not know the basic difference between the deliverable and the non-deliverable. You do not know how the interbank trades differs when it comes to deliverable and when it comes to non-deliverable. You do not know how the trade life cycle management and the settlement life cycle management. Two cycles differ in case of deliverable trades and non-deliverable trades, but on the name of the fintech, you're being asked to make an algo. Okay, it could be via machine learning. You're asked to make an algo via a machine learning, and this algo will predict whether to buy or sell. So I do not know what is non-deliverable. I do not know what is the complete family of non-deliverable. I do not know how the interbank differs in case of deliverable and non-deliverable. I do not know how the XVAs differ in case of deliverable and non-deliverable, and almost everything I do not know, but I am creating an algo. This world termed this as a fintech. So we clearly need to understand that the basic premise of the fintech has to be functional. If the basic premise of the fintech is non-functional, or it is a coding piece, which I term this as a software piece, then it is a biggest mistake. It's a half job done. That we need to understand. Now, let me give you another simplistic example of fintech. And this time I'm going against Singapore. Now there are, I think, thousands of startups we have in Singapore. Singapore is a city of startups, right? Now, if you go to Singapore, you know that now people think that the only way machine learning can be used is KYC, screening of curriculum vitae, which is shortly known as CV, and all these things. But machine learning can be used in a pretty bigger way, provided you know how to use that. Like, I challenge you, today you let me know that any machine learning based product who can predict the oil prices. I understand that oil prices are very sentimental in nature. I understand that if the royal family of Saudi will fight with I'm just giving an example, will fight with each other, then the oil prices will fluctuate. I understand that if Saudi and Iran would attack with each other, then oil prices will surely be fluctuate. But having said that, do we have a single machine learning based a programming stuff who can predict the oil prices? For that, there is of course a definite requirement of the machine learning. There is a definitely requirement of the statistics. Most of the machine learning people I ever met, they have poor statistics. I ask them 3-4 questions and they do not know about anything about statistics. And more importantly, before devising any such product about the oil market, you need to have a pretty good understanding of the oil market, which is crack, fracs, how to generate, what are the various asset classes, around 350 asset classes which we have only in case of oil, and there are multiple guesses and all. Now, where the problem is coming? The problem is coming the functional piece. Now, few people, those who love fancy definitions, they have created another fancy thing which is known as SupTech. Now, SupTech stands for Supervisory Technology. Now, SupTech, I would say, is nothing but a stepsister of RegTech. This is my definition of SupTech, because SupTech cannot be performed without RegTech. And you would be very surprised to know, that in the countries like Singapore, where unfortunately I have to say that, wherein we have the I would say the kind of sales model which is running in Singapore. I don't want you to name, but we have many people in Singapore, those who name of the RegTech takes money from you, will organize some conference or a kind of meetup in a club or maybe in a bar. They invite few people like us, those who are experts in RegTech. They have one or meeting and assure you will get the funding, but you will never get the funding. This is the definition of the RegTech we have in Singapore. And most importantly, when it comes to Monetary Authority of Singapore as well, and this is very shame to say that even few people we have in Monetary Authority of Singapore, those who also believe that RegTech is all about applications, is not all about personal thing. I encountered these people twice in Monetary Authority of Singapore. That's why now I definitely never shy saying that Monetary Authority of Singapore is also losing competitiveness, that too at a very faster pace. Singapore as an economy is also losing competitiveness at a faster pace. But basic premise of SupTech remains RegTech as always, and RegTech currently has 17 principles, which includes the upcoming like MS 610, which is Risk Aggregation and Statistics Reporting, FRTB, Fundamental Review of the Trading Book, which includes the upcoming revised version of MiFID II, SFTR, and there are a hell lot of things. Total 17 principles which we have. Now, these 17 principles will govern the regulations, and we have a lot of loopholes in these regulations. When the MiFID II came, including myself, several good people come in the public domain and said that this would be an utter failure. But ESMA, European Security Market Authority, who is basically the custodian of MiFID II, they simply disregarded these concepts, and what happened, that MiFID II is really a failure. Fundamental Review of the Trading Book was pushed in 2019, 1st January 2019, and people like us came forward and said that it is too early, you are pushing on the ban. What happened? You definitely postponed it to 2022, 3 years, but the issue is the revised draft which you coming is full of loopholes. Full of loopholes. Not one, two, multiple loopholes. These problems will create an issue in the RegTech. Now, what is the definition of SupTech is that in case of supervisory technology, all these 17 principles, basically supervisory technology includes two things. The one is the data piece, which is the data which banks holds. And another is the technology piece which can take this data automatically and give regulatory the power to decide. There are many economists across the globe, few are in US, and I agree with them that they have created another term. I think this is better than we should use SupTech. They term this as agile governance. AGILE, agile governance, and they defined agile governance like that. A few economists of the globe in the US specifically said that agile governance is nothing but when you take the decision based upon the data. So example, should I cut the rate? I don't know. But the federal head, Mr. Powell, will say data will tell. Should I increase the rate? I don't know. Data will tell. When the government will take up the enormous amount of data. But there is a little interpretation issue we have in agile governance. The interpretation issue is that in case of agile governance, right? Agile governance do not specifying how much data you have to take. It is for a general decision, should I take 6 months data, 1 year data, 2 year data, 3 year data, or it could be a continuous process, just like a data mart, wherein the new data comes in and the old data goes out. We do not know. So this is an interpretation issue. My interpretation in the agile governance is that you should continue to feed new data and let the old data to go out of the system, because every system in the globe would have a limited capability. Either it's a Hadoop, it's a Spark, or any tool, it have a limited capability. So agile insurance, agile governance, and SupTech, they are not far. But why SupTech till now end up as a failure? In fact, in Singapore also is that because the regulatory has not defined in the rightest way. There is a loophole we have in the existing regulatory, and there are a lot of loophole in all the regulatory whose drafts are coming. Another problem we have in SupTech, and very serious problem, is that the data which banks are giving, the alignment of the data is not the rightest form. So example, DBS, take an example of DBS, Development Bank of Singapore. The DBS do not have a single TMS, Treasury Management System. They have huge amount of treasury management system. Do you know that UOB, United Overseas Bank, they have too many systems in place, and UOB is not an exception. There are so many banks worldwide who are not rely on one treasury management system, rather they have so many. So example, I have this mobile phone. Rather than carrying one mobile phone which include Twitter, LinkedIn, mail, phone, WhatsApp and everything, I have 10 phones. This is for mail, this is for Twitter, this is for LinkedIn, this is for WhatsApp. What a shit I'm talking. When one phone, iPhone is giving me everything from Twitter, LinkedIn, WhatsApp, WeChat, and emails, and almost Siri and FaceNet and almost everything. Why do I need multiple phones for that? For multiple purpose. Now, since banks do have multiple systems are in place, these systems, they term this as treasury management systems. These systems would definitely have serious consequence on the implementations of the SupTech, because the information is passing in such a way that by the time it will reach to regulator, it would either be obsolete or it is not reaching the rightest way. That's for sure. It would either be obsolete or it is not reaching the rightest way, and this creates issue. This creates issue in case of supervisory technology. So unfortunately, there are many central banks of the globe like HKMA, Hong Kong Monetary Authority, this is Monetary Authority of Singapore, and multiple like FINRA. They have their own regulatory sandboxes. But these regulatory sandboxes are focusing too much on the technology, and they are forgetting that if you focus too much on the technology and not the fundamental, you are bound to lose. Like in case of Libra, if today you get to know that the PayPal, which is, I don't think we need to define PayPal, I'll tell you what PayPal is. PayPal is leaving Libra. One of the backbones of the Libra is leaving Libra. Because the functional stuff before the Libra is not right, of course we would have a separate video in that regards. So if the functional concept, behind any product, any service, any company, or maybe could be a sandbox is not correct, then you are bound to lose. That's for sure. And this is what it is happening actually. So these regulatory sandboxes, for the sake of formality, are inviting many companies, those who give the product, but this product do not have the functional background in an appropriate way. Now there are humongous amount of companies we have worldwide, those who are in the business of, I would say, the algo trading. I don't want to name few companies, but can I have a single company in the algo trading, those who created algo for non-deliverable forward? Created algos for non-deliverable swap. In fact, Reuters pricers are almost 10 to 15 years older now. Bloomberg, they are not changing. TradeWeb, and the list is pretty long. FXall. We need to understand that RegTech is the basic premise of the SupTech. And I never feel shy saying so that SupTech is nothing but the sister concern of the RegTech. But if you do not implement RegTech in the rightest way, and that too via the functional piece, then you are bound to lose. That's for sure. So this is our introduction about the supervisory technology. In the second part of the video, just under the 2 odd minutes, I would like to tell you that supervisory technology is having wonderful future provided you are a master of the regulatory principles, which is known as the RegTech. That's pretty tough. If you're expecting that you learn any coding language, which could be machine learning, which could be IoT, could be blockchain and all, then it will never happen. To learn the functional aspect, you need to learn the financial markets, and that relatively very tough. And most of the people do not understand that. So RegTech is a pretty important piece if you wish to enter into the SupTech industry. But one thing is pretty sure, which I agree, is that like the US economists created a term which is agile governance. If I take their permission to use this again, the world is moving actually to agile governance, but few people make this as a fancy term, which is SupTech. In the next 10-15 years, probably, the regulators would be able to take decision at a much faster pace because of the multiple technologies in place. However, having said that, the appropriate data will fed into the system. It would always be a challenge for the regulator. The reason is that banks do have lots of tools, and it's very difficult for the banks to scrap all these tools because it requires a humongous amount of cost. And more importantly, considering the way that the regulatory is changing at a much faster pace, it would be difficult for banks to get this done. So we really need to think how things move, but this being an introductory video of the SupTech and the critical analysis of the SupTech, we first need to understand that SupTech is not a fancy thing. It requires the basic understanding of the, not basic, in fact, an expert level understanding of the financial market. With this, we thank you very much, and I hope you like this video, and we are very pleased to share that our OTT platform over the top which is TRFX Academy, is almost ready, and effectively next week we will be doing the Shri Ganesh in all the foreign people, those who are watching this video. Shri Ganesh means the start. Actually, it's an Indian word. Whenever you start something new, it's an auspicious, so you do the Shri Ganesh. So next week we're going to be doing the Shri Ganesh of our OTT platform. We hope that the way Amazon, Netflix and multiple came into the picture, we would come into the picture. I assure you one thing, that like I started the company, many people were thinking at that point of time Treasury Consulting would end up as a tradings company, but today everyone knows that we're heading as a bank. Similarly, there are many people who still believing that our OTT platform would be more or less a video content of the trainings, but I assure you it's not video content of the training, it's much more than that. We'll let you know about something which the books do not tell you. We'll let you know about something which the banks do not know, and we'll let you these things which Definitely the courses like CFA, Chartered Financial Analyst, and FRM, Faltu Risk Management will definitely not teach you. More importantly, now you can join us anywhere. You have my Twitter ID Rahul Magan 8. You can please visit our fixed income platform www.fixedincome.global, and there are number of things on the cards. Have a good time, and don't forget that Treasury Consulting is heading as a bank. Our destiny is to be a bank, and the day we get the banking license, we'll let people know that how exactly the banking to be done. Have a good time.